pretty tough, strong little gal comes in with tears in her eyes and said, I just lost my whole family. The plane went down. They didn't make it. I said, if we believe what we have sung, I don't know what to do except pray and sing. This is what we do.
Yeah.
In good times and bad times, we sing. Gloria, I think the first time you came into our little studio there in Alexandria, and you knew so many of our lyrics, they asked you, did you know, I am a promise, I am a possibility, I am a promise, with a capital P. So that was an outgrowth of our life then. We had kids, and we wrote about our kids. Just, we have this moment today. It was about, we still do it, about 2 hours every morning. We drink coffee together.
We do a lot of talking about what we believe and what we think. In fact, now that we're at this age, we sit at the breakfast table till about 10 and talk about politics, the news, and everything. There's a word right now that's being used a lot in government, and that is weaponizing, different departments or whatever. But sometimes we weaponize the gospel.
Wow.
What we say may be true, but how we're saying it is destructive.
Wow.
And for people to believe that God is loving, those of us who love him should not weaponize the gospel. And I think that was a piece of...
And what do you mean by that, Gloria? Weaponize. Give me an example of something that you're at your breakfast table discussing with Bill.
Well, let me pull this out. Bill has two uncles, and they're actually his great uncles. And in those two brothers, they were very different, and they both loved the Lord, and they both went to church, and they all grew up with the Bible and all of that.
Good.
But one of them was very dogmatic and how would I say?
Doubled up.
Yeah, and they were talking about an incident, and that uncle was saying what he was going to tell him about that, which was right. I mean, what he was saying is, yeah, I get that. The other uncle said, but Lawrence, you know something? You can be dead right and be dead wrong.
Wow.
And that kind of says it. How we deliver, if God is love, then if we are full of Christ, then that ought to be the result.
So the balance of truth and love at the same time.
And so you can tell the truth and hurt somebody. And sometimes truth does hurt, even as gently and lovingly as it's delivered. We can do our best at that. But if we can say true things because we care about people, because we love them, and we don't want to see them being destructive to themselves, then I think that is more action than talk. I think you just love them and keep on loving them. And when there's confrontation is demanded, I think they need to know, I'm not going anywhere. I'm your best friend on this earth, and I'm not going anywhere. You can't offend me. You can't run me off. I'm just going to keep on loving you and keep on loving you until that has whatever result. So
we wrote a song. There have been times when giving and loving brought pain. And I said to myself, that's never going to happen again. But I found out that loving was well worth the risk. And even in losing, you win.
Wow.
I'm going to live the way he wants me to live. I'm going to give until there's just no more to give. I'm going to love till there's just no more love. I could never, ever outlove the Lord. When we were in England, we rehearsed in London that night for the next day to do it. In the middle of the night, Nelon, wonderful friend, passed away, went home to be with the Lord. The next night, we had to come out and do the program. We said nothing about it until the very end and said, this has been a hard thing for us to do. because we said goodbye. But if we believe what we're saying,
Wow.
we still sing.
This is what we did.
This is what we do. Her daddy died on Friday night. We were in Kansas City. This is 30 years ago. Pastor called and said, Gloria, I don't have good news. We came home that morning, made the arrangement for the funeral on Monday, went back to McCormick's Place, Chicago, did the concert. At the end of the concert, we said, this has been tough, especially for Gloria. She lost her daddy last night. But we sang, and then one day, we'll cross that river. We'll fight life's final war with pain. Then as death gives way to victory, we'll see the lights of glory, and we know that he lives, that we sing because he lives. So last summer, we were going to do the Alaskan cruise. We were in the hotel with the artists on the night before we get on the ship. And Gina comes up and says, we got bad news. The Nelons were coming up on a private plane, and it went down somewhere over Utah. Who was on it? Said everybody except Autumn. Autumn was coming.
Autumn's in the air.
Autumn was in the air. Autumn gets off the plane, and the authorities have to talk to her before anybody talks to her. It tells what happens. She comes with her husband. She is 7 months pregnant. Comes to the hotel and comes to our room. Pretty tough, strong little gal comes in with tears in her eyes and said, I just lost my whole family. We hugged her and prayed and said, we've got to go down and meet with all the other artists.
They're gathered in a room.
In a ballroom down there. They didn't know what it was for. They thought, what was up? I walked in and Mark Lowry was there and he said, something wrong? I said, yeah, it's pretty bad. We all sat down. We told them what happened. The plane went down. They didn't make it. I said, if we believe what we have sung, I don't know what to do except pray and sing. So she had been singing this new praise song, and I think it's a wonderful song. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been. So we sang it. We all gathered around, bawling our heads off. All my life, the goodness of God. So she got on the plane next day. She came home, made the arrangement for the funeral, and the artists all went down to Atlanta. They were all there at the wonderful choir at the funeral. For the funeral. And then a few weeks ago, when we did a regular homecoming taping, this is the first time she had been back, expecting her.
No, she's
very, very pregnant. And she gets up and she sings the song. It's one of those moments.
Yeah.
But this is what we do.
Yeah.
In good times and bad times, we sing.
I remember somebody saying Christians are the only people that can rejoice and grieve at the same time. And think of the privilege of knowing Jesus, that you don't ever have to stop being who you are one day to be something different the next. You get to be the same, and you endure, and God's with you in that storm. And, that's the idea that you lose your entire family in a tragic accident.
What a statement. I just lost my whole family.
And continue to do what you do is what a testimony.
When we told her that we were going to go down and tell the artists, that they were gathered and didn't know, and we're all getting on this boat, her first word was, can I go with you?
She wanted to be there.
She wanted to go down to tell the artists. Today, as we're talking, she just posted, she said, this has been a year of the best and the worst. And she said they've been intermingled. She said, I have grieved for my family and I have rejoiced over our baby boy. And she said, my heart has been embraced by both extremes. And I still have to say, all my life, he has been faithful.
We sat across from Rick Warren, And we've done a number of interviews with him now. And this one particular time, somehow we, look, the purpose-driven life is a phenomenon. And at one point it was selling almost 1 million copies a month. Okay. So, at some point I had read that somewhere and I said to him, Rick, you've explained to us that you sat at a typewriter for 12 hours a day for, I think it was months, and pounded out every word of that book, and you struggled over it word by word, and it was just the most painful thing you've ever done. And yeah, I got it. But when it's selling 1 million a month almost, that's got to be a really unique experience. Maybe you're the only one I'll ever talk to or ever know that experienced anything like that. What do you remember about that time? And he said, funny you should bring that up. He said, because what I remember the most about getting those sales reports, and I was getting them, but I remember holding my wife's head over the toilet as she was throwing up because of her cancer treatments. And he said, that forever changed my theology, because prior to that time, I had always envisioned life as a series of peaks and valleys, but it's really not. He said, it's 2 railroad tracks going at the same time, joy and tragedy. Exactly what you were just describing of what even the Nelon, what Autumn, posted about and was talking about. Think of it. And the book that the Warrens wrote, and I think it was Kay actually wrote it, called Choose Joy, is you choose which train track you're on.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to have this kind of good and bad experiences, and it's your perspective. So you get back to this interesting thought about perspective that we've kind of largely overlaid. What is going to be your perspective? Because in your life as a Christian, you're going to have these 2 experiences, and you get to choose where your mindset is. You can choose to be a victim, and you can choose to be a victor. You can choose this. It's a really interesting thing.
It's your faith. It's that, when that trial comes that you would never ask for in a million years. But then that's what's so powerful in my life is my faith that I get to stand on in those times. That there is a solid foundation of faith and hope and trust in a God who cares, a God who sees, a God who comforts. We would never know God's comfort. I mean, He sent the Comforter. We would never truly experience the comfort of God, the Holy Spirit in our lives, if we didn't have tragedy.
Absolutely.
How do you know you have faith and it's never called upon?
Not called upon in those times.
Andre said that.
Standing is.
Andre,
got it.
Yeah.
Anthony Berger died at the piano on stage on Wednesday in the middle of a cruise. He literally, as he slipped down, he was still trying to play. And we were singing, Hear My Song, Lord. And we were in front of him. The interesting thing is, what do you say? And there again with the Nelons, we were beginning with how many 2,000 people that were getting on a ship expecting this joyful weekend. When Anthony died, the very next thing, we had to do a concert. And the question is, do we believe this stuff or not?
Yeah, wow.
And the joyous response in that situation was, yes, we do. The Hoppers Connie had asked me to write her a song on hope, before, years before. And I did, and they were there, and they sang that night after Anthony died, the next concert, they sang Shouting, Whispering Hope. Because you think, I thought that song, Whispering Hope was something old ladies with mints sang. But I found out that hope, it whispers, all right, but sometimes it shouts. And it is not wimpy, it is total muscle. And when the hard stuff kicks in, The hope may be your sweet hope that you are sitting by the lakeside meditating and having a religious moment. But when you have tragedy, it kicks in like nothing you've ever think. I was like, it kicks butt and takes names. And it is not wimpy. It is the power of Christ.